a monumental moment for me because I'm in my own community and I'm helping my community build financial stability.
Operation Hope's first office and first launch of a partnership in New Mexico is incredible.
If you have access to the bank and you need help or you start to get in financial distress, we are there to help you, and we are there with the Hope Centers to help you.
I am very grateful for all of you for participating in this.
I feel like it's very important because financial stability, financial literacy is the backbone of success.
Please welcome Operation Hope founder, chairman, and CEO, John Hope Bryant, and the CEO and president of Wells Fargo, Mr. Charlie Scharf.
So you got to be really special for us to do a video live feed these days. Everything we do is in person. You've seen some of the most amazing people in person. I do make exceptions, and Charlie Scharf is one of them. He's worth us finding whatever way we could do this with him. You'll understand why in a moment. He's at a board meeting. He could not get here in person, but we are honored to be able to do this in this way. So is Charlie ready for me?
John, I'm not sure I'm ready for you, but I'm here. And again, just a quick apology for not being there. As John said, yesterday and today we had board meetings. It's year end. There's a lot going on. If it was anything other than my bosses, I would have rearranged my schedule to be there with you.
You have a boss, Charlie? I don't think people don't. This is an opportunity for education. People don't understand that a chief executive officer of a Fortune 500 company, one of the biggest in the world, by the way, if you're not clear, the chief executive officer of Wells Fargo, they don't understand you have a boss. Explain that real quickly. Who are your bosses?
Well, let's be clear. I've got multiple bosses when it comes to the work world, which is we have a board of directors. It's a group of 12 outside directors plus myself, very engaged, very involved in overseeing the company, very helpful, and I work for them. There's no question about that. I serve at their pleasure. They evaluate me and the team every step of the way. They let us run the company day in and day out, but there's no question about it in terms of whether they're the boss or not. They are indeed.
And you got shareholders, you've got regulators, there's a lot of people who have opinions.
There are, and the other thing I'd say is there's no question all stakeholders matter to us, but what's really important in these big companies is often overlooked, which is people often say when you're the chief executive, you can do what you want and that people have to follow. And that's true to a point.
Yeah.
Companies are no different than, any other groups of people in life, which is, first of all, people want to follow someone that they understand, where they agree with the values and the principles, and they believe that the future is getting to a place that they believe in as well. And so, I come in every day knowing that I've got to convince everyone through all of the work that we're doing and all the direction that we're setting and the way we're executing is about convincing people that where we want to go is the right thing. So let's all work together on that and to be open to input.
And this job is not as easy as it looks. It's like herding cats sometimes, like hugging Jell-O. And you and I had a couple experiences, one of which won't surprise you that I'm going to mention, one of which will surprise you, I think, that to me showed me your character under pressure. The one that won't surprise you, I mentioned it before. It was during the pandemic. We were all locked in, and you were making some changes in management, and you were misquoted about talent, and you were hurt, I believe, offended almost, because you know what your intentions were, but the words got misinterpreted, some of which you took ultimately responsible for. But initially, you and I had, and Bill Daly, had some off-the-line conversations that were positively tense. And you allowed me to push back with you. You didn't have to. The fact that we engaged in that conversation, and I tried to explain how it is hard when you're in a bubble, and you're forced to be in a bubble with CEO of a big company like this, that there's some things that are obvious to others that may not be obvious to you. And you ultimately came around with, I think, a wider view of the world, and saw that there was a bunch of talent within Wells Fargo of people of color that may or may not have thought that they were seen by you. And I can tell you that that's now different, that I don't get those calls. I get just the opposite now, that people of color and women within the company not only feel they're seen by you, but I believe it's true that the highest ranking African-American female in American banking sits on your executive committee. Her name is Christy Furcho. Is that right?
Yep, it's Christy Furco, and she's a member of the operating committee, which is the smallest senior group of folks that we have at the company.
You also have, she'll be embarrassed when I say this, but I've been embarrassing her all week, Darlene Goins, your president of your foundation, is here.
Let's have Darlene in that role.
Yep, and I've been to retirements of people that you and I both love, who are people of color, who left your executive committee, you replaced them with somebody else of color. These are things that people don't see on the outside that are decisions you make. Here's one will surprise you. I watch what people do when nobody's looking. And then we'll get to the substance of our conversation in just a second. I was in, Shadra and I were in, I think, Palm Beach. And I was there speaking somewhere, and you were on your own time. You were not there on anything that I was aware was official. And you were with some friends. And I walked by you, and I'll just say, there weren't no black people around. And I didn't see many poor people. And I think what most people would have done was just let me keep on going. Charlie, surrounded by his friends, hey, John, come here. He tells everybody, this is my friend, John. This is my friend, John. Sit down with me. Tell him what you do. This is our partner. That was him extending dignity and respect when nobody was paying attention. And while that may seem like a simple thing, it said a lot about who Charlie Scharf really is. Do you remember that?
I do indeed.
And I decided to, you invited me to stick around. I decided to quit while I was ahead and leave. Because you never want to be the old guy in the club. Before you kicked me out, I was going to leave. You've also shown up at least 3 times at Hope Inside openings, essentially branch openings. How many branches do you have?
A little over 4,000.
4,000 branches. And how many employees?
225,000.
And how many customers?
70 million.
And what's the asset size of the bank?
$1,952,000,000.
Numbers matter. Charlie showed up in South Central LA. Showed up in St. Paul. There's a couple other cities. I think it was, here in Atlanta, you showed up.
Yep.
In DeKalb County. And he wanted everybody to know this was important to him. Let me tell you what we're doing together, and then I'm going to tell you the most shocking thing that I love that Charlie said to me, and it leads to where we are now. We have about 8,500 customers together that we've served together so far. This started with Darlene suggesting that we shouldn't do one Hope side, we should do multiple. It should be part of our business plan, which I appreciated. But that had to be codified. We now have 27 locations, 2 launched this week, that are serving 80 branches, 50 Hope Insides by 2026, serving 150 branches. We're raising credit scores about 50 points in 6 months, decreasing debt by $3,800, increasing savings $1,500, so your bank can say yes. Wells Fargo's made an investment in a software platform, a reporting platform, so that all organizations can do what you do through Operation Hope, which is being able to refer our clients to not just Wells Fargo, but to all banks, and that clients who went from no credit to their first credit score have a shot at getting access to credit at Prime Credit at Wells Fargo. And I'll say also that my first account as an adult was with Wells Fargo at your Pico branch in West Los Angeles. I was 18 years old. I was homeless. I still have the account, by the way. Yes.
Right.
And don't go looking at my account, by the way, Charlie. That's my business. But unless you're going to add some money to it. But the thing that impressed me is I was in St. Paul with Charlie, and I showed Charlie the numbers, and I said, there's a problem with these. No, I showed Charlie the numbers. He said, there's a problem with these numbers. What? It shouldn't, at that point it was 7,000. It shouldn't be 7,000. It shouldn't be 70,000. It should be 700,000 customers. He said, why aren't we doing this everywhere? Normally the nonprofit guy is trying to get the for-profit organization to do more. Why did you say that, Charlie? Why did you say, why aren't we doing this everywhere within your bank? What did you see?
Because for a couple of things. First of all, what I saw, which honestly, when we launched Hope Inside, is it seemed like a great idea. You know, we've known each other for a long time, so I was encouraged that it was going to make a difference, but you don't really know. And then as we've launched a bunch of these centers, you actually see that we're actually making a difference, that people need to be educated, they need help, and we can take people that have poor credit scores, that aren't saving what they should save, who don't have access to the financial system the way that you and I have, and through education and coaching, we can help make that happen. And, you know, by doing that, that helps the communities in which we operate. As the communities get stronger, that's not just good for us, that's something that we're really proud to be a part of. And so when you see that the work that we're doing together inside these branches is making the kind of difference that we actually believe in, one of the things I talk about internally all the time is, well, we want to do things that matter. And what matters is not a press release. What matters is not an article that's written about you. What matters is, are we having an impact broadly in a way that fits the scale of what Wells Fargo is? And because we have 4,000 branches, because we're across this country, we ask the question, well, if something's working in one part of the country, why can't it work elsewhere? Why can't we have a broader impact if we have found something which is really, really helpful to improving the lives of people in the communities in which we reside and work?
You and I have not had this conversation, but I'm going to ask you an intimate question. When I know that you were born into what I call a working class, successful working class family. Your dad was a stockbroker, I believe, in New York or one of the suburbs, one of the boroughs of New York. And you saw very little of him in some ways because he was working all the time and never took a break, never took a vacation, because he was afraid that if he took a break, that it might break his opportunity to succeed as a broker on Wall Street. So you saw him because he never got any vacations. On the other hand, you didn't see him because he was always working, but he was also giving you and your family access in a way that it appears you didn't take for granted. Those people don't see the humble beginnings of Charlie Sharp. They just see a very successful Fortune 500 CEO, who I might add, on first blush, is a little intimidating and not very emotional. I see you as a very warm person, but I'm crazy enough to give you a hug, when, without you, reciprocating. You reciprocate now, but I first hugged Charlie. Whoa! Right. So where does this sense of you, when I go into your corporate suite, and now I can meet with Scott, and I can meet with Saul, and I can meet with Michael, your chief financial officer, and I can meet with Kyra, and I can meet with Christy, and I can meet with Jason, who just brought on board. And you are saying, John, you should meet John. That's not normal. They're willing to meet with me, and we have this great rapport, but you've opened that door. Is this tied to your childhood experience? I don't know if you ever thought about that. Is it connected?
Listen, who knows? The one thing I'll say about my childhood experience is, first of all, I was incredibly lucky, incredibly privileged when you look at the way I was brought up. Yes, my family worked really hard, but my family was my family was always there for me. My father was a broker. He worked really hard, but he was there in the morning and he was there in the evening, and we did take family vacations together. But to your point is,
it wasn't luxury.
He had to provide, and he had to provide based upon being at work every day, and so he didn't miss a day, and that's what happened. But I grew up with a strong sense of family and some very, very strong values. And one of the things that you grow up believing is that if you want to, it's not what you say, it's what you do.
That's
and
right.
So we talk about what we do together. It's something that's important to us. When I listen to what you say, the idea that I'm introducing you to people and that we want to have this conversation, you're a partner of ours. You're an important partner of ours. We're doing important things in the community. Why wouldn't you? I want you to be, part of the fabric of what goes on here. And if we can find out ways to have a deeper impact through those conversations, that's just a very natural thing to do. So it's not about the formality of things. It's not about layers. It's not about any of the process that goes. In fact, we got to break those things down and create personal relationships, because it's in these personal relationships that we get the most done. Yeah. And I actually think that the reasons why we're getting so much done together is because of how we feel about each other and the way you're integrated here.
Let me ask you this last question. You've worked with my friend Bishop T.D. Jakes and his work, and you're doing $1 billion of activity that's committed there over time. And some of that is turned into grants that HBCUs have seen and community-based organizations have seen. We got a grant from T.D. Jakes tied to your joint efforts. Combining that, connect that now, again, this is the final question, we're over time, but I think this is really important, with the future of banking, trying to connect Wall Street to Main Street. This election really, in some ways, was transactional economic election. Everybody is feeling some pain. They got too much month at the end of their money, trying to create new customers from the bottom and get them to the top. How do you see the future of banking? How is it connected with what you're doing with maybe a Bishop T.D. Jakes, Operation Hope, and others? Is the doing well and doing good intentional in a sense of a philosophy? And is it tied to the state of the U.S. economy now and going forward? You can answer that in any way you like. But that's
I'll answer it this way. I think, first of all, I'm responsible for Wells Fargo, and I'm responsible for the people here. I'm responsible for all of the different stakeholders that we have. And so when I think about what it takes for Wells Fargo to be successful, we're successful when the U.S. economy is successful. The U.S. economy is successful when people broadly across this country are prospering. And we want everyone to prosper, not a small group. And when we look at what has happened, rising tides have not lifted all boats. And so we look really deeply and say, why is that the case? And what role can we play in trying to help more people prosper? And one of the things that we've come to understand, which is not an easy thing for a big bank to say, I actually think, is we can't do it all ourselves. Very often big companies say, we've got the resources, we've got the people, we give money away, we've got branches, we know 70 million Americans, therefore, we could. What we've come to understand is we need partners. We need partners who are trusted locally, people who are less privileged than the people who work at at the banks today actually trust. And so we want to enter into partnerships with people who are trusted locally, who have relationships that we don't have, and can reach places down deep that need the help that can make a difference. Yes. And so whether it's through the work we're doing with Bishop Jakes, the great things that we're doing with you are incredibly important. We took the money that the government paid us to administer PPP, over $400 million, and said, we shouldn't take that as profit. Let's work with organizations across the country, CDFIs, work with minority-owned banks who can actually touch people in ways that we can't touch, identify people and businesses that we can't touch to help them prosper. And so when I think about what's going on in this country, and I think about the election, I think about how people think about things, the country overall is doing well, but not enough people are doing well. Yes. And we will ultimately do well, and we'll fulfill our mission when we help a much broader group of people prosper than the people that have prospered. And that's good for everyone. And anything that we can do with our resources, married up with, with partners out there, is far more powerful than each of us working individually.
How much was that money that you said the profits you did not take from PPP that you reinvested in community? You didn't mention the number. What is it?
$420 million, I believe. And that's, by the way, that's brutally honest. The government paid us $420 million to administer the PPP loans, and we in turn gave away the entire amount through third parties.
So, absolutely. So Charlie, here's the question. I've beaten around the bush. Let me hit it to you directly. You're not doing all this stuff because it's a goody two-shoes thing, or it's morally correct, even though it may be morally correct. You see these underserved communities as emerging markets in future good business, provided we can get their credit scores up, their debt down, their savings up, so the bank can say yes. You want these as future customers, as business, not as charity.
Absolutely. No, it's the future of the country. It's the future of the country, and if we can play a part in helping those people advance more quickly, that's great business for us. So we talk about it as a business imperative, not just as an opportunity.
150 Hope Inside locations by 2026. Charlie Scharf, CEO of Wells Fargo.
Thank you, John. Thanks for everything.
Love you, friend.